Well, hello again. By now you've probably had a look at the last couple of video documentary reports. One was called Blood Sacrifice and Child Sacrifice, and the other one was called Israel is Not Israel. Now this is just going to be a summary of what is going to happen. And I'm talking about just as the old book tells you it's going to happen, whether you want to believe it or not, whether it agrees with your particular doctrine from your particular religious organisation or not. It is what the old book says. And I'm going to start with a quick summary of the book of Daniel, Daniel 2, Daniel 7, Daniel 8. And I would ask you to go into YouTube and have a look at the Daniel reports, particularly the report, the documentary I titled Warning to NATO and UN by Daniel. But anyway, I'll give you this summary so that it refreshes your mind and gives you an idea, because all of this documentary is to show you events that are happening in the world right now in front of your eyes, and it is part of the day of the Lord, or the day of Yahweh's vengeance, or the day of his wrath. It is happening. It doesn't happen that day, doesn't happen in a 24-hour period. Some of these things have been going on for 30 or 40 or 50 years. I've asked you throughout this documentary, you Google the evidence and see what you come up with. Now, to give you an idea of what you are up against and what you've been up against for a couple of 100 years. The secret societies I mentioned to you before in my previous report, they control all governments and they control all religions. But I'm going to give you some details of the secret society claims and their covenant and agreement between each of them. And I'm reading from what you've got on the screen. This is what they say. Our very existence was created by God, for God, of God. We cannot be destroyed without first destroying the great architect of the universe, which is a definition of impossible. Now, that is the terrible beast in Daniel 7. That is the beast that is destroyed in Daniel 7 and Daniel 8. I'll read some of these items. We will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways, so they will never see what is happening. We will use soft metals, aging accelerators and sedatives in food and water, also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds. We will promise to find a cure from our many fronts, yet we will feed them more poison. Now, there's an increase by thousands of % of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and autism. Now you're looking at how it is done. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin and mouths. They will destroy their minds and reproductive systems. From all this, their children will be born dead, and we will conceal this information. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them, and what they eat, what they drink, breathe, and wear. Now this item here is important for you. We will always hide the divine truth from them, that we are all one. All religions are under our control, and this they must never know. Now, I don't care whether you're Seventh-day Adventist, a Catholic, a Baptist, or a Lutheran, or whatever you think you are, that you've been following a box of truth. Have a look. You've been following, after you'll see this report, you've been following a box of lies, the kind of propaganda that they wanted you all to be bound under. Now, the members of the Illuminati, Masons, Fabians, Skull and Bones, etc., they have control over all governments, the media, military, NATO, UN, New World Order, health, food, and genetically modification items. Well, before I show you this summary, you might recall a report that I published about 30 years ago, and I republished it on YouTube. And that is that all of that area will be taken over by the IMF, the global government, and NATO. And of course, already Libya's gone, Portugal, Spain, they're already under the IMF global government. Greece is gone under the global government. They're all just about to collapse and go under. And remember, as I said, probably the Russia and China will, as the king of the north, will join up and come down and defend Assyria because they're buddy pals. But also realise in my previous report, I made it quite clear, as the Bible says, as Yahweh says, Damascus is totally destroyed to rubble. So it's interesting to see what might happen in the near future. Now with this summary of Daniel, chapter 2, chapter 7, chapter 8, the first part there in verse 28 and 35 to 36 is representing all of the pagan god cultures which are destroyed in the image that Nebuchadnezzar saw. And at the end of that vision, it says that the people of God will inherit the kingdom of Yahweh, which is an everlasting kingdom and will never be destroyed. In chapter 7, there's a lion, which I regard as Britain, USA. There's a bear, which I regard as Russia. The leopard with 4 heads is the 4 world unions. They are allowed to remain for a season and a time, it tells you. But the terrible beast, the global oligarchy, they're slain by the hand of Yahweh in verse 11. And then the new chosen Israel, as I explained to you before, the second group, the new chosen Israel, will inherit the kingdom of Yahweh God. In chapter 8, it tells you in verses 17 to 19 that it concerns the time of the end, the last days. It's the Gentile nations referred to in there. It is not Greece. And you'll see that in my previous report. And that is representing the United Nations, NATO, New World Order, Western Alliance, which destroys Iraq, Iran, and all the Middle East countries. And then, of course, again, the terrible beast, the oligarchy, they are destroyed by the hand of Yahweh. And then at the end of that prophecy, in verse 25, you'll see that the new chosen Israel people, chosen by the hand of God, they will inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. There's a lot of mixed feelings about this and a lot of different interpretations to Daniel. But let me tell you this, mainly in particular when it refers to Daniel 8, the word Yavan is in the original text. It is not Gentiles. It is not Greece. And the word Yavan, you go back to Genesis chapter 10, you'll find that that is the progeny of the Gentile people, or Yavan. And that is definitely representing the United Nations, NATO, the Western Alliance, and the wars that they have created. And if you go into any documentaries of either the Jews or the Christians, they're all the same, because they were given the doctrines to believe in by the secret societies hundreds of years ago. Now you might ask the question, how does all of this happen and how has it all been foreseen and posted in the old book? Well, let me tell you something. Yahweh, the creator God that created everything, all of this universe and all life, he has a plan, and that plan started from the beginning, and he knows the plan all the way through to the end. And all the way through the old book, you will see that Yahweh used spirits in his realm to dish out and decree the punishment that he had planned for any of the people. And I've given you an example there in Ezekiel 30. Yahweh said, I will deliver the land into the hands of evil people. I will make the land and all that fills it desolate by the hands of foreigners. In other words, all of the evil nations, the evil people in the world that are going to be used by the hand of Yahweh to fulfill and carry out his plans of destruction on the nations that he has decreed he will destroy. Yahweh said in 1 Kings 22:18, he's in the courtroom, he says, who will lure the king, Ahab, to go to war so that he can be killed? And one of the spirits said, I will be the spirit of falsehood, and I will be in the mouths of all of his prophets. So the king goes to the prophets to get advice as to what he should do and whether he should go to war or not, and they give him a pack of lies, and at the end of that day, King Ahab was destroyed. Now Yahweh says in the old book that he is going to dry up the Tigris, the Euphrates River, and more on the Nile, which I'll show you in the next clip. Also, Yahweh makes it clear, he says, I will send snakes which will bite you and you will not be able to charm them. Now, look at what's happening. This is a news report that the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers has left the rural population at the mercy of heat, drought and displaced wildlife. That's a report that was put in through the BBC through Patrick Colbert. He says here in the Bible, a plague of snakes. Now, the report from Patrick Colbert is that the latest results from these two great rivers, which for thousands of years have made life possible in the sun-baked plains of Mesopotamia, HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, is a secret weapon. That's a man-made weather manipulation, causing droughts, floods, tsunamis, cyclones, earthquakes, wars, and New World Order and United Sanctions have exasperated this terrible crisis. And you can go to Jeremiah 8 and Jeremiah 14, Ezekiel 38 and get more information on that. But you might think, oh, this is just a coincidence. You think so? I don't think so, because Yahweh's giving step by step everything that he has planned to do, and it's all there in the old book to follow. Now here's a verse that I was going to give to you in Jeremiah 8:17. Yahweh speaking, I will send venomous snakes amongst you, vipers that cannot be charmed, and they will bite you, declares Yahweh, who has decreed evil on them and to annihilate and destroy them. And you'll get more of that in Ezekiel 7. Up the top there's a news report. A new plague, saw-scaled vipers, about 2 foot long. This viper is blamed for more deaths than any other species in the world. Its bite causes extensive internal hemorrhaging on its victims, and it's recognized by an arrow shaped on its marking on the head. So what is happening today is exactly what Yahweh said would happen. You think this is a coincidence? Now, I got the shock of my life when I went into Google and I investigated what's happening over there at the Nile River. This is what Yahweh says, and it's in Ezekiel 29. The river is mine, and I have made it. In Ezekiel 30, he says, I will execute judgment on Egypt. Then they will know I am Yahweh. In Isaiah 19, it says, the waters of the Nile River will dry up, and the riverbed will be parched and dry. The canals will stink, the streams of Egypt will dwindle and dry up. The reeds and rushes will wither, also the plants along the Nile at the mouth of the river. Every sown field, there's your farmers, along the Nile will become parched. It will blow away and be no more. The fishermen will groan and lament, all who cast hooks into the Nile. Those who throw nets on the water will pine away, and those who work with combed flax will despair. The weavers of the linen will lose their hope. The workers in the cloth, they will not have any work again. Now that's in Ezekiel 32 and Ezekiel 30, but if you go into Google and you research this, you will find that the Nile has failed to come down with its annual floods for about 30 years. And it is all drying up. And yet the Nile River used to flood every year and has done for thousands of years. So when you look at this and you do your own investigation, you can't say it's just another coincidence. On the contrary, you are looking at something happening in the world right under everybody's nose, and it is part of Yahweh's plan to destroy. And it's also something that he planned and posted and forecasted in the old book. Now, on your screen there, you can get pictures of these from the web, but there's a picture of one of the vipers that is killing all the people along the rivers. Just exactly as Yahweh said he would send, and that's what would happen, the people would get bitten. Now, if you go into Google and you put in a question, chemtrails are poisoning the sky, you will find thousands upon thousands of reports proving to you what they said was a conspiracy, not a conspiracy anymore. And I gave you a report previously that showed where the mute abomination is. It's mentioned in Daniel 8:13, Daniel 9:27, Daniel 11:31, and Daniel 12:11. The mute abomination is the Masonic and the Illuminati, the whole kit and caboodle of the Bilderberg group. There's their headquarters now. And you'll read there, the Israel Supreme Court is the creation of one of the elite families, the Rothschilds. In their negotiations with Israel, they agreed to donate the building under 3 conditions. The Rothschilds were to choose the plot of land, they would use their own architect, and no one would ever know the price of its construction. The reason for these conditions are quite evident. The Supreme Court building is the temple of the Masonic mystery religion and is built by the elite for the elite. And this is where the generals of the army, the top rabbinic movement, and the government representatives, this is where they all meet to control the world. So you've got to ask the question, has the day of Yahweh started? Has his day of wrath and anger started to be dealt out on the wicked world? Yahweh will destroy this earth. He says he will shake the earth and shakes the heaven. Now, all of the text of what you can look up yourself are there. HARP, secret weapon, and the CSG gas mining fracking is causing numerous earthquakes. I will give you a report on that, and that is now a fact. The satanic forces of evil will be destroyed. The new Israel, the ones that are chosen by him, that are loyal and faithful to him, they are the second group of Israel that I clearly showed you in my previous report, and there's some more text there for you. Yahweh has decreed evil and total destruction on Jerusalem and Damascus and the people, and he's decreed total annihilation on all of the nations of the earth. And you've got NATO, USA, UN, IMF, EU, etc. there. And there's a lot of the text down the bottom that you can refer to yourself and see if you think it's just a coincidence. Well, the question was at the beginning of this documentary, is the day of the Lord, has it started? The day of Yahweh, his day of anger, his day of wrath. Yahweh made it quite clear that he will shake the earth, shake the heavens, and he'll cause earthquakes. That's what he says. But you also saw in the beginning of this report that he uses the minds of evil people and evil nations to carry out his decrees of destruction. Now, this is the CBC News. It's only a couple of months old. Fracking causes earthquake, studies confirm. The US Geological Survey is set to release findings that a remarkable increase of quakes in the US mid-continent since 2001 is almost certainly the result of oil and gas production. 2 separate studies are providing insight into the earth-shaking consequences of the controversial gas extraction process known as fracking. Now, this is happening all over the world, and they're trying to get it going in Australia. The Fabian Secret Society, which had control of that government in Australia, also pushed that through all of the councils in all of the states of Australia. And the people are now waking up to that, and they realise how damaging it is going to be, and they're trying to put a stop to it. It'll be interesting to see if they win the fight. But make no mistake, fracking is causing a complete total destruction of the ecosystem. It is destroying the marine life and the creeks and the rivers and the water table underneath. It is destroying bird life. And with their HARP, which is changing the weather patterns from having rain in the rainy season to having a drought instead, and having a drought instead of the rainy season, it's all combined to what Yahweh said he's going to do. Kill the fish, kill the birds, and kill the animals, and destroy everything. Well, this whole documentary is about the day of the Lord. It's in your Bible as the day of the Lord. It's actually the day of Yahweh, the creator of all of life, the creator of the universe. And he has plans. He's decreed total destruction on all of the wicked nations of the earth. And his decree will be, as he puts it, will be carried out by the evil people of the world. He'll have them killing each other, one against the other, and he'll certainly use their technology, which, let's face it, long before they had the technology and the test tube of genetically modified anything, or the chemicals, the drug companies, the pharmaceutical companies, long before they had it in their own laboratories, Yahweh, the Creator God, made the lot. And he will use their evil minds to destroy, as he said, destroy the fish, destroy the birds, destroy the animals, destroy this earth, cause earthquakes, and boy oh boy, that's all happening right in front of your nose. And that is certainly, in my estimation, definitely part of his plans, part of the day of his wrath. Why? Because it's not just a coincidence that all these things are happening. They're all happening according to the divine plan. And the people, you got people waiting for some rapture, waiting for their Jesus to come, waiting to be taken up in the clouds to meet their Jesus. Such a load of false doctrine, which I've shown to you in the previous report of blood sacrifice and child sacrifice. Now I'm going to show you a lot more here before I wind this report up of what Yahweh said he is going to do, and it is happening right in front of our eyes. Before I go through the clip on marine life, let me just make one more point with you. The same lying UN, New World Order, global governments that are telling lies, they own the media, and they've been filling up your mind with a lot of nonsense and lies. If you do your research on the World Trade Center, the same hologram technology that they use to show a plane hitting the World Trade Center, isn't it amazing that a plane that's made out of aluminium went through 47 steel girders and uprights, concrete, and the nose came out the other side? That's right. You do your research and have a look at it. And they will no doubt have the same hologram technology to demonstrate their Jesus coming in the clouds. Everybody will be rushing out to think that Jesus has arrived. The day of the Lord is here. I'm sorry, there are going to be a lot of disappointed people. But if you want to know the signs of the day of the Lord, the signs of the day of Yahweh's anger and wrath, I'm giving those signs to you here. And those signs are happening right in front of your eyes. Now let's have a look at what Yahweh said about the marine life. Now in Zephaniah chapter 2, this is what Yahweh says. I will utterly destroy everything from the face of the land, the word of Yahweh. I will destroy man and animal, the birds of the sky, and the fish of the sea. And you're looking on your screen where there was found literally thousands of tons of reef fish that were belly up all over the ocean, and some of these were floating in onto the beach. Now when you realize what you're looking at there, this has never ever happened before in the history of this world. I am a man that had 2 fish farms. I know marine life, and I went spearfishing in the Barrier Reef many times back in the 60s. A beautiful, pristine, clear water with literally trillions of beautiful, healthy fish. Not anymore. They are now belly up and dying all over the ocean. Now here's a report out of the newspapers. Thousands of dolphins may have died in Peru's massive die-off caused by and remain a mystery. When a retired fisherman called to report that about 1,500 dolphins had washed up dead on Peru's northeast coast, veterinarian Carlos Yupin's first reaction was, "That's impossible." But when he travelled up to the coast, he counted 615 dead dolphins. Over a 135-kilometre stretch of the coastline, the death toll could be as high as 2,800, and volunteer counts a lot more. Peru's massive dolphin die-off is amongst the largest ever reported in the world and the largest that's ever happened in this Earth's history. And when I investigated this and I went into Google, literally thousands of dolphins and whales are floating all over the entire ocean, dead. And never before in the history has there been such devastation. They can no longer use the Earth's electromagnetic field, which they need to navigate. And that electromagnetic field is destroyed by the HAARP. The HAARP has blown a hole in the Earth's electromagnetic field, and this is what's killed these beautiful creatures, and of course it's also killed the bees. The bees have magnetite in their little brains, and when they go out and they collect pollen, they load it up, and they need the Earth's electromagnetic field to come back home to their hive, and they can't make it because they're lost, and they just drop dead. The birds out of the sky, also the migrating birds. If you know anything about the birds, you'll realise that they too also need the electromagnetic field to navigate. Down on the southern hemisphere, we used to every summer have thousands of swifts. Where are they? No longer are they coming down. There used to be hundreds and hundreds of dollar birds, always, every summer. Where are they? They're no longer coming down. Not one came down last summer. Here's another news report that was in the Townsville Bulletin, April 5, 2010, by a fellow by the name of Nathan Paul. The world's largest reef fish, it was dead, mysteriously. After they looked at it, tested it, as you read there, the Queensland groper fish washed up. Tests confirmed the death was from septicemia. In other words, blood poisoning. You tell me what causes blood poisoning. Would it be chemicals from Monsanto? Ask the question. There was 50 washed up on the beaches in 2 years. Also, 27,000 snapper were washed up on the shores. Is this part of the Lord's Day? Has the Lord's Day started? What do you think? Is this part of what Yahweh says? I will kill the birds, I will kill the fish? I think so. Now, if you want to go into Google and you want to ask the question again here, you will get this answer. Mystery of dozens of dead birds falling from the sky in New Jersey is solved as officials say farmers killed them. Do you believe that? Farmers killed them? That's in a news report on November 6, 2012, not long ago. Tens of millions of birds are dropping out of the sky all over the world and have been dying and dropping over the last 3 years. The bees have disappeared. Farmers in USA are trying to hand pollinate their crops. When you realise that the bees are gone, there's no pollination. And if there's no pollination, there will be no fruit, no barley, no wheat, no food. And if the oligarchy of the New World Order want to control the people, and then they have control of the people, they certainly will have control of the people because the people will do anything they say. What is happening right now, you've got the carbon tax. The carbon tax is only a cooked up fake so they can collect money off every country. What for? To pay for the global government. Carbon dioxide is not a greenhouse gas. Carbon dioxide is needed in photosynthesis. Have a look at my previous report, or Google it yourself. Photosynthesis is the most necessary gas, and it's heavier than air. It's only found down on the bottom where all the plants and the grasses grow, and it's needed there because all of plant life feed on it. The ocean feeds on carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is not a poison. It's not a greenhouse gas at all. And yet they have convinced everybody, even the school kids at school, that carbon is evil. They've got to get rid of it. And they want carbon sanctions so they get more money off you. So make no mistake, carbon tax is something that's been cooked up by the oligarchy, the banking cartel, introduced into all of the governments who are subservient to the oligarchy, so that there will be money collected from you, from each country, for nothing else, for no other reason. It will be collected by the IMF to pay for their global government, and that will bring in the time of trouble such as never before. It tells you in several places in the old book there will be a time of trouble at the end of days, and we are headed into that time of trouble, and there's no doubt about that, because the day of the Lord, the day of his wrath, the day of his anger, you are looking at all the signs, and it's been happening right in front of your nose. Well, that's the end of this report. I've tried to put as much as I can in. It's only about a half an hour long. And you need to do your own research. If you thought that you were following a box of truth, think again, have another look, and go into my previous report, Blood Sacrifice and Child Sacrifice, and you'll realise we have all been duped. We've all been deceived by the secret societies who are in control of all religions, who are in control of all of the governments, and in control of all of the media. And what we've been fed is nothing else but nonsense and a bag of lies. My only prayer for you is that you and your family go back to the old book, go to Yahweh, as it says, only those families that call on Yahweh by his holy name, only those people who call on him, who are loyal and faithful, calling on his name in prayer, are those that he will again choose as Israel. And remember in the previous report, as I showed you, the word Israel is delegated to those who are loyal and faithful to his laws. The name Israel was given to Jacob. Why? Because he overcame sin. So we are looking at a time of trouble such as never was before in the history of the earth. There's detention camps all over the earth to round up millions of people and detain them. If you so much as speak out against the government or your religion or a rabbi in the new world laws that they are going to bring in, called the Noahide laws, you will be beheaded. So take a note. Realize that what I've given to you here in this report are the words of Yahweh, the Creator God, the Creator of all life, the Creator of the universe. And he has made a promise that you call on him, he will hear your prayer, and he will answer you and protect you.